Good evening. I believe in America. I also believe America is in trouble. Our economy was once the envy of the world. Today, it's on the verge of collapse. Unemployment, the housing market, banks and financial institutions. We have an $11 trillion national debt. We spend $700 billion a year in trade deficit with other countries. So how did this happen? How did America go from being the #1 creditor nation in the world to being the #1 debtor nation in the span of only 30 years? Well, 30 years ago, Ronald Reagan was elected president. And with him came a new economic philosophy called supply-side economics. Some people just call it Reaganomics. It was not Ronald Reagan alone. Presidents Bush, Clinton, and Bush, as well as Congress, played a role. Reaganomics are built on some fundamental principles. You might have heard of them. Unregulated free trade and free markets, lower taxes, globalization, and by the way, your government doesn't work, so privatize everything. Now I realize this is a huge topic, so I'm just going to focus on one little aspect of it, and that's money. First, I'd like to introduce you to something called the L curve. Now imagine the entire population of the United States on this football field. Poorest person on the left, richest person on the right. Now, if you're a median family income of $40,000, you're on the 50-yard line. You have a stack of $100 bills about 1.5 inches tall. Now, if you go to the 95-yard line, you're making $100,000. Your stack has grown to 4 inches. Go to the 99-yard line, you're now making $300,000. You have a stack a foot tall. Now, as we approach the 100-yard line, some very interesting things happen. If you come to about 1 foot from the 100-yard mark, you are now a millionaire. You have a stack of bills about 40 inches tall. Here's where it gets really interesting. The closer you get to the 100-yard line, we see a sequoia, giant sequoia, largest tree in the world. You're right at about $100 million. Top of this chart, you're a billionaire. Top of Mount Everest, you now make $10 billion. And the richest man in the world currently, Bill Gates, $50 billion. He has a stack of $100 bills 30 miles high. So, there are currently 400 billionaires in the United States. Before 1980, before Reagan, there were less than 15. These are the people that our founding fathers fought against when they declared independence. These are the people Teddy Roosevelt fought against when he took on the robber barons and broke up the monopolies. And these are the people that Franklin Roosevelt took on when the economic royalists gave us the Great Depression. Well, they're back today. Today we call them, what do we call them? Corporatists. So, why were our greatest leaders so opposed to having so much wealth in the hands of so few people? All you have to do is look at our economy. It's in shambles. These people made billions and billions of dollars in profit. You and I, what do we get to do? We get to bail these people out. You and I, that have our inch and a half of $100 bills, get to bail these people out. So why don't you hear about this in the news? Well, turns out they own that too. Every channel you watch, every newspaper or magazine you read, every radio show you listen to is owned and controlled by these people. And make no mistakes, they got their eyes set on the internet next. And who's there to stop them? Congress? Well, I hate to tell you, but they own Congress as well. So let's take a quick look at how we used to tax the very wealthy in this country. Now, the income tax came into being in 1913, and it was targeted for the very wealthy. As you can see, $500,000 back then was worth about $11 million today. It was taxed at 7%. Now, it jumped quite a bit during World War I to help pay for the war. After World War I, Presidents Harding, Coolidge, and Hoover brought us supply-side economics. They lowered the top tax rate all the way down to 24, 25%. What did that give us? It gave us a bubble. Back then they called it the Roaring '20s. What came after the Roaring '20s? The Great Depression. Now the first thing that Roosevelt did when he came into office was he put back a high tax rate for the very wealthy. And it stayed that way all the way through Carter, the Carter administration, 1980. Right before Bush. It fluctuated between 70 and 94%. During that same period, we had unprecedented prosperity in this country. The middle class was never in better shape. So, why am I telling you this? Charles Montesquieu was one of the great political philosophers of the Enlightenment. He said, "The tyranny of a prince is not so dangerous to the public welfare as the apathy of a citizen in a democracy." Democracy is not easy. It requires constant vigilance, it requires an informed citizenry, and it requires action in order for it to survive. If you think America is on the right track, by all means, do nothing. Go back to your lives, your television shows, your jobs if you have them, because that's exactly what these people want. If, on the other hand, you are troubled by what is happening in America, it's time to get involved. Learn what the issues are, learn who the players are, and most importantly, learn from our history. Write a letter to your representative. Write a letter to the editor. Go to a political event, demonstrate, make your voices heard. Voting is not enough. We are living in a momentous time in history. What we choose to do or choose not to do as a nation will determine our fate. You are the future of America. You are the defenders of the Constitution, and you are the protectors of our republic. Do not let these people take that away from you. Thank you.